Hey guys, what's happening? Hey, I was just thinking about something and I want to share with you today, like how to train your mind to think differently, because that's really the root of the anxiety, the stress, the overwhelm, depression. That's where it comes from. So most of the men that I work with love God and still feel like, man, the pressure to provide, the pressure to lead at home, the pressure to not fall back into the old patterns, right? The pressure to hold it all together no matter what. And on the outside, they look fine, but on the inside, they're battling the anxiety, shame, racing thoughts, overwhelm, procrastination, all that pressure. So, and many of them think, inside of them quietly think to themselves, man, what's wrong with me? Like I'm praying, I'm reading God's word, I'm even going to church, but I still feel like this. So you can begin to doubt, like, man, does God have a plan for me? And so Romans 12:2 is God's answer to that. And he tells us right here in his word, he says, don't copy the behaviors and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way that you think. Then you'll learn to know God's will for you, which is good, pleasing, and perfect, right? So this is not a weak statement, okay? This is God's strategy to change how we think, how we feel, and also how you live, okay? So the first thing I want to share with you is this first part. Says, do not conform. So the world has a pattern, and your brain has a pattern. So Paul says, do not conform to this world. So the world has the pattern of hustle harder, right? Numb it when you're tired, by scrolling, drinking, escaping, exploding in anger, right? Also, the world's pattern is trust your feelings more than God's truth. So your brain also has a pattern. And so its main job is to keep you safe, so it pushes you towards what's familiar. Okay, so if you've lived for years with thoughts like negative self-destructive thoughts, negative self-talk, like I'm not good enough, I'm a failure, God's disappointed me, nobody likes me, what your brain does is it keeps running that same script, over and over and over again. So not because you're broken, but because you are trained to think that way. Okay, so neuroscience calls this wiring and neuroplasticity. So your brain builds up pathways based on what you repeat. And some of you have been repeating these negative thoughts for decades, okay? So it's like, the way I look at it's this way. So like if you take a walk in the woods, like say you take a walk in the woods and it's a grass path and you just keep walking it every day though. You show up every day and you walk that path. Well, eventually that path becomes a dirt path. It's worn in. You don't even have to look where you're going. You just get up and walk it. Well, that's what our brains do. When our brains think we're not good enough, we're failures, we keep walking that path, we keep saying it every day, it becomes the path that our brain begins to believe to be true. Okay, so in Romans 12:2, God's saying, hey, stop letting the world and your old wiring shape you, right? He says, I got a different plan for you. And so if we look at this next part, it says, be transformed. So not by trying harder, but by training smarter. So notice it says be transformed. It does not say transform yourself with sheer willpower. Okay, so transformation is something that God is doing inside of us when we're working with him to renew our mind. So think about it like this. Like it's like going to the gym. You do the reps, you put in the work, and God designed the muscles to respond to the work, to the reps. Okay, same with our brain. So you do the thought reps, okay, and I'm going to teach you how to do that in a minute. And then God designed your mind to change when you feed it truth based on new practices, new patterns, new rhythms, new routines. Okay, so the question is not like, I get this a lot, well, can I change? No, the question is not, can I change? The question is, are you willing to train? Okay, so the third part of this verse talks about by the renewing of your mind. Okay, so let's look at that. There's 4 simple steps inside of this process to let's change the way that we think to change our lives. Okay, so the first is what I call catch. Let's catch the thought that's creating the feeling. So, okay, let's notice it. Let's catch it. That whatever thought that's running the show, if you will, whatever thought is making you feel the way that you are, like what am I telling myself right now when you're feeling whatever feeling it is, overwhelmed, anxious, guilty, depressed? Like, what is the thought? So number one is we have to catch the thought. So it could be that like, I'm failing as a husband. I'll never get ahead. I always mess things up. I'm not good enough. Okay, so those could be, so like, let's notice it. Let's catch those thoughts. Step 2 is let's challenge the thought. Is it true? Is it a lie? Like, is God saying this about me, or is it the fear inside of my mind that's making me feel this way? So, and like, is it like right now, like, am I believing a lie that I'm a failure? Like, really in the moment, like, let's catch that. Let's evaluate it. The third piece of this is let's replace whatever that thought is with God's word. So if you're thinking you're not good enough, then let's go to God's word and see what he says to be true about you. Okay, so like, God says that I'm his son. I'm not a failure. God is my provider. I'm loved. I'm called. I'm worthy. I'm a masterpiece. So that's what God says to be true about each one of us as a believer in Jesus Christ. So what we got to do is, instead of repeating, I'm not good enough, I'm a failure, I'm never going to amount to anything, let's repeat what God says to be true. So when we're repeating it, this is kind of the next step of the process. When you're repeating that, believing that to be true, that becomes your new norm, right? So this is where most men quit, right? Your brain changes with intentional discipline daily. Okay, so if you're not intentional discipline daily of catching these thoughts, controlling them, renewing them back to God's word, your brain's going to want to default back to the old pattern. Okay, so the more you practice, catch, control, and renew, the more that you're reprogramming, the more that you're training your brain to think differently. Okay, and think about it this way. If you've been stuck in this pattern for 5 years or a year or 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 plus years, I got a client, some of my clients are in their 70s and 80s. Like, think about that. Like, how long have you been struggling? It's going to take some time. So what happens is whenever you reprogram your mind, right? Whenever you're changing the way you think, what happens is it literally changes the way you feel. And then our actions come based off how we feel. So you're going to start taking different actions. And then our actions, when we add those up, we get different outcomes. So ultimately, how do we change our life? We have to change our thoughts. We have to change how we see ourselves. And we do that by catching the thoughts, controlling the thoughts, and renewing those thoughts. And then the output of that is the last part of Romans 12:2. It says, then. So stop conforming to patterns and customs of this world. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you'll be able to see God's good, pleasing, and perfect will for your life. So ultimately, that's where we want to be as believers in Jesus Christ, right? We want to be inside of his will. I want to feel all the fruits of the Spirit coming out of me, right? Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. So if you want a different life, if you want different circumstances, you got to act differently. The only way we act differently is when we feel differently. The only way we feel differently is by thinking differently. Okay? So I pray today's a blessing for you. Remember, let's train our minds to think differently, therefore seeing different outcomes in our lives. So I pray today's been a blessing for you. Hey, also want to remind you that this week, this Saturday, December 20th, is our last day to take advantage of the holidays on us inside of our program. So my men's program, the Be Transformed program, typically a 3-month online course, one-on-one support, daily interaction, those things. It's actually now a 6-month program. So we give you 3 months free when you decide to be a part of our program by December 20th. So if you want to be a part of that, let me know. Kylie's group is the Anxiety Unashamed. So love for you to join us there. If not, hope to catch you inside the Renew Your Mind for Men group, or for you ladies, inside of the Renew Your Mind tribe for women. So God bless y'all. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.